Okay, hi everyone. My name is Paul Toit. I'm one of approximately maybe about 10 CSPs that are associated to the Professional Speaking Association of Southern Africa. And I'm here to speak to you ostensibly about building a speaker business. But what we're ultimately going to move into is what defines a speaking business and how you get recognized for having a true speaking business. And then I'm going to try and put it into some kind of context, because a speaking business as such has changed quite considerably through all the ups and downs of the last decade or two. I think one of the most significant events was the financial meltdown that we had in 2008, which was incidentally a few weeks after I got my CSP. And then, of course, the COVID that has hit us, and straight after that, the war in Ukraine, which is having an extraordinary effect on the world economy, and it's affecting speakers and speaking and what I'm going to refer to as content producers. So I'm going to move straight on into it and just give you an idea of what defined the speaking profession in the old days. Way back in the 80s, the NSA, the National Speakers Association, was formed by a gentleman called Cabot Robert, who believed that speakers shouldn't be competing against one another, that they should be building up a profession where one can charge professional fees and where the income from those fees can be a significant part of one's income, whether you had a just speaking model or a model that encompassed other things as well. And the NSA has come to define a set of competencies that defines what effectively a speaker is. So I've pulled those up for you quickly, and I have them here. The first one is environmental trends and impact, which is quite an interesting and recent addition, as far as I'm aware, to the NSA's 8 competencies. The next one is professionalism, which to me is an incredibly important one, because there are certain standards by which one performs in terms of content, in terms of delivery, in terms of ethics, and it's all encompassed in the word professionalism. Content development, most importantly, that you're not just stealing other people's stuff and reproducing that all the time. Product development, that you're developing things that are relevant and that are needed out there. Otherwise, you're never going to get booked. Platform mechanics, which goes down to the essence of how you deliver and what you use to deliver. And then, of course, your performance mastery, which again speaks to delivery, business development. And this is important in as much as this is where you take all that delivering of interesting content and you create a business that provides some kind of sustainable income for you that is either a whole or part of your income. And you'll find that for most speakers, it's very often a part of the income. And then finally, the last one, strategic and operational business management. So those are effectively the 8 NSA SA competencies. Now, I'd like you to consider that being a speaker in the United States of America is quite different from being a speaker in the southern tip of Africa, or South Africa as such, because we have a smaller market, we have a different market, and although there's diversity in the States and in other parts of the world, we really take the cake as far as diversity is concerned for all kinds of different reasons. And although we have 11 official languages, we well know that there are dozens of different languages spoken in Southern Africa, including a lot of European languages, and of course our ethnic languages that were here when the settlers originally arrived. So in Southern Africa, we have developed our own set of competencies as such, and focus areas. And this was something that, just as the NSA have worked on and tweaked their 8 competencies, we have been working on this over the years, and our current president, Bruce Wade, was the one that introduced our own unique set, which includes confidence, competence, courage, celebration, collaboration, and community. And then focusing on those 10 areas of engagement: technology, niche, positioning, structure, model, closure, influence, vocal and stagecraft, which many of the chapters use as a topic per month when they have their speakers. And I think this is very relevant to us. It's something that's taken a long time to develop, and it gives us some kind of direction in which to point ourselves when we're looking at, well, what is the educational experience that we want in terms of building up a business? Okay, now I want to just look briefly at you, and I want to look at when we started as PSASA back in 2004 and how things have probably changed since then. So very often the interest would have been from people that saw themselves as being keynote speakers. Interestingly, the very top keynote speakers often don't join a speaker association. And this is not about us. This is about all over the world. If you look at the 17 speaker associations that are linked to the Global Speakers Federation, of which we're a part, you generally find that a lot of the, shall we call, high-flying speakers never really become part of an association. What you tend to find is it's people that feel that they would like to contribute towards the speaking profession, people that want to become speakers or subject experts that want to know how to be able to deliver their information in a way that's compelling and is going to grab their audiences. So those are the kinds of people that essentially the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa might attract. Now, when I say content producers, let's just look at a couple of those things. The first one is, and probably a high percentage of our members are training and they're training facilitators. So they either have their own content or they may be facilitating other people's material. So training and facilitating. They may develop different kinds of workshops. They might be delivering seminars. They may be doing private or one-on-many coaching. Very often coaching is regarded as being one-on-one. They may be podcasters. They may be writers or authors. They might be bloggers. In fact, in my particular case, my books began with blogs and then effectively turned into books from there. So very often the two are interrelated. Vlogging, which is basically video blogging as such, or creating videos with content and creating a channel. And then speaking at the bottom, which I've highlighted because interestingly, we call ourselves the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, but as opposed to the professional vloggers or bloggers or writers or podcasters, because it is the speaking heading that seems to draw all these content producers together. Now, I think what's critically important is that speaking plays a very vital role, but speaking has changed in nature from what it used to be. So classically, you used to have the 30-minute to the 45-minute keynote. Someone would get up there and they would strut their stuff on the stage and they would get a round of applause and they would leave. But there are now so many different variations of this, and particularly, and not exclusively in the last 3 years, but particularly in the last 3 years, it's been divided into two sections. So on the one hand, you would have the in-person delivery, and on the other hand, kind of the new kid on the block would be the virtual delivery, where instead of standing up in front of an audience, you're doing what I am now, you're delivering it virtually through a camera, and people are then participating in a different environment to what we're actually used to. So we are content producers. Our business can be comprised of any combination of what you see on the list here in front of you, and in varying different percentages. I will just say to you that the number of speakers that rely solely on speaking to get an income in South Africa is extremely low. And normally it's someone who's in a very specific niche, be it speaking on economics, the economy, the future, those kinds of things. You generally find that a lot of us content producers, that speaking is a part of our revenue stream, which might include the sale of books, And again, the sale of books is not necessarily just a physical book. It might be online or all kinds of versions of them. And it might include obviously writing, podcasting, coaching, seminars, workshops. And I can say that I have actually done and am involved in all of these areas in order to create some kind of income. Now, for those people that see speaking as a critical part of their business and would like to see the portion of their income from speaking increasing, then what you're ultimately going to be aiming for as the standard of recognition is to go about trying to get your CSP. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about CSP because it seems to be this weird thing out there in the distance that is only conferred by the NSA in the United States of America. That is partially right, but not completely right. You can, in fact, apply for your PSA from the Professional Speakers Australia. So there are two associations that can confer it. And there is an equivalent to this to the CSP in the UK called the FPSA, which is the Fellow of the Professional Speakers Association of the United Kingdom and Ireland. We have a couple of our members that have got FPSA. Graham Codrington springs to mind, and I have an honorary FPSA, but essentially that is on par with the CSP. So if I can just move on to CSP for you, I'm going to give you some pretty critical information. And for those people that are speaking on a regular basis, so on average, if you're delivering a speech a week, approximately, then you are probably in line to either get your CSP or to start building up enough credits in order to get your CSP. But one of the criteria that is very, very important is that you do need to be a member of PSASA or a similar association. Now, why I say that is that if you're not linked in some way to the Global Speakers Federation, it is actually not possible to get your CSP. And I want you to also understand that you're not a member of the Global Speakers Federation. Your association is a member of the Global Speakers Federation. So you need to be a member of either your local association, or if you so choose, any one of the other 17 associations that are linked to the Global Speakers Federation. Now, the first very important thing, if you were interested in getting your CSP in 2023, you're probably almost too late unless the process is underway, because the date always has been and probably always will be the 12th of January. If you have all your stuff submitted by the 12th of January, as far as the states is concerned, the United States, the NSA, you are then in a position to apply for your CSP. Now, I'm going to give you just some information in terms of where you can go to, because when I applied for my CSP, it was quite a struggle to find out all the things that I needed in order to get it. But if you go to, and I'm going to quickly put this in the chat box for you, if you go to nsaspeaker.org/CSP. So let me just put this in for you. So it's nsaspeaker.org/CSP. You will find an incredibly helpful guide as to how to get your CSP. There are, in fact, two PDF documents that you can download. I just wish those documents were available when I went for my CSP. They weren't, but they are now, and it makes the process very, very easily understandable. Just to give you some kind of idea of what you'll find there. Firstly, if you cannot afford the application fee of $375, you're stumped to start off with. If you want to convert that into South African rands, that's approximately 6,650 rands. You need to apply with that before the 12th of January. There's a pre-submission date which they will give you, which you'll see on the documentation. You need to get continuing education credits by attending national conventions. Your own one being one, but you can also attend conventions, for instance, the NSA in the USA, which gives you additional credits. You can go to the one in the UK, Australia, whatever the case may be. You may also, there are certain credits, I believe, available for virtual conventions, but there needs to be a proof of registration and attendance for those. So those are called education credits. Just remember, you need to be a member of an association. There are required CSP education sessions, which I understand you do online in order to understand things like ethics and so on and so forth. Then there is the speaker business income model, and that really shows that you have earned enough from your speaking engagements, your verified speaking engagements, in order to be able to qualify to get your CSP. There's also a presentation spreadsheet where you physically submit what presentations you did on what day, where it was, who it was to, and you show your fee as well. That then goes on to a salary spreadsheet where all the engagements that you're claiming as part of your CSP shows what you might particularly earn for that. I do understand that there is an adjustment model for South Africans applying for their CSP, because I understand that the level there is you're looking at about $50,000 a year. That's a huge amount of money for us to get your CSP. So I understand that they do adjust it according to exchange rates, and that there is some kind of concession for us. And then finally, and this is probably the most important, because this is where visually they get to see how you speak, there's a video submission where you can submit I'm not quite sure what the duration is, but it's a substantial clip of you delivering a presentation, actually interact with the audience so that they can look at your platform dynamics and the way you conduct yourself. So that is just a very, very short summary in terms of how you can go about applying for your CSP. I'm very interested to note that there are a number of South African speakers that probably should have applied for their CSP some time ago that haven't got it yet. Very often we trip ourselves up when we go and leave our association and then come back again, because they are looking at continuous years of membership, but you do need to be a member in order to apply for your CSP. Now, why is it a valuable thing to go for your CSP? Well, it's not that it's suddenly going to bring in a flow of speaking engagements, but it's got a lot to do with how you feel about yourself having attained it. And I can tell you that one of the greatest achievements personally that I've experienced in my life was getting my CSP and publishing my book. And they both happened in exactly the same month, which was July 2008. So it really is a marvelous feeling. And you can ask any South African CSPs, and there's a few of us. There's Steph du Plessis, there's Billy Selakani, there's Justin Cohen, and I'm sure I'm going to leave out somebody now because I'm just doing them off the top of my head. There's Nikki Bush, there's Sharon King Gabrielides. There are a few of us that have already got their CSPs, and I can tell you that feeling of applying for it, paying the fee, going through the whole process, actually not only helped us from a point of view of knowing who we were, but it helped us to get back to a lot of our clients, and in fact, that way, getting a few more speaking engagements. Okay, so I want to encourage anyone that seriously wants to take their content production and make speaking a bigger part of it to start looking at the CSP, what the requirements are, and possibly focusing on the areas that you need to in order to increase that as a component of your business. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.